Hey everyone, I'm super excited today to have a conversation with Turo host Asher M from the DMV area. I'm really excited to find out what his journey has been like so far on Turo, what he sees for the future, and just what he's been up to here in 2020 since it's been such a roller coaster ride. He's also a daily driven member at simonsexperience.com, and you can find out more information about his fleet in the descriptions down below. I hope you guys enjoy this conversation with another Turo host. I'll have you guys start off by just introducing yourselves and letting the Turo community know where you're based out of and maybe some of the cars that you guys have.
Yeah, for sure. So like I said, we're based out of the DMV area. We for the longest time we had our car listed right near the convention center in DC, but I just recently moved it to Alexandria, Virginia. But either way, it's still available. I'll deliver it anywhere in that DMV area. We have 2 cars listed right now. We've had 3 cars total on the platform, and we have another car that we're kind of in the process of maybe listing, kind of determining that, still crunching numbers on it, but we'll probably have that one on here pretty soon. The cars we have on there now is a 2016 Corvette convertible, and then we also have a 2016 Maserati Ghibli SQ4. And then the car we had on there previously was just a 2009 3 Series BMW. And yeah, the next car, the car that we have additionally to this that we'll eventually be listing on there is we have a Genesis G70 2019. And hopefully we'll get that up and running by the end of this year. And we'll see.
Nice. You know, it's so funny. That's actually one of my dad's favorite cars is the Genesis, that G70 he loves. And not a lot of people know about how amazing those cars are, like how luxurious they are. I think that they give like S550s a run for their money. I mean, they're phenomenal. What you get for the price that those cars are, not a lot of people know.
Yeah, and I think that that's one of those things. It's a sleeper at this point.
Yeah.
Once it picks up, I think it's going to gain some real traction. The one that we have, it's the top of the line package. I mean, sports package, anything you can get with the car, we have in it. And it's a really fun car. I mean, we enjoy driving it. Obviously, you don't have the performance of a Corvette. It's not the exact same as that sports muscle car, but it's still just a fun, nice, clean, elegant drive too. So yeah, we were definitely happy with that purchase. And putting it on the platform, I think there'll be a lot of people that will find that that same liking to it that we have.
Yeah, I for sure think so too. I've been looking at those Genesis cars for a long time, and I want to say back in like 2016, I had found I don't know if it was 2016, maybe 2017. I found one of their early models. I forget which one it is at CarMax. I remember back then thinking how nice they were, and I tried to buy it at the time, but CarMax, funny enough, wouldn't sell me a car back then. But at the same time, I was able to finance a Corvette, which was kind of ironic. I think just because I was young and had younger credit. But since then, I've always followed those cars. And for people out there that don't know, Genesis is sort of the luxury line of Hyundai, sort of how Lexus is to Toyota. And they're making some major moves to really push that brand. And so I think that's a really great car and a smart car to have, because it's probably one of those cars that offers so much like perceived value because how luxurious it is, how nicely they're designed, and kind of what you get for the money. And I think what they're doing with it in terms of marketing and stuff, it's going to be huge. I'm not sure if they've come out with a later model. Is there like a G80 or something like that? I feel like I remember my dad telling me.
Yep. So they do have the G80 and a G90.
Yeah.
They released, I don't know if they released them all at the same time, but they make them, 2020s, 2021s. And then they're creating they might have even released this year the SUV for the Genesis line too, which I think that might be a pretty big one as well.
Yeah, I think that's the one that my dad, like, I don't know, put himself on some kind of a waiting list or something like that. So that's the one he wants to buy. And so he's been just showing me all these YouTube videos about that car. And he's like, look how nice they are. I was like, you know what? It's kind of crazy how nice these cars are. And people don't know about this. So I think for sure in the future, they're going to be huge. Definitely.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So how long ago did you guys start on Turo?
So we started the beginning of this year, actually. We bought the car we bought our Maserati the end of last year. We were looking for a new car, but in hopes to also, you know, find a car that we could utilize the platform for too. Just because we had a really great experience when we first used it. And so once we got the Maserati, we put it on there maybe a couple weeks after, once I kind of, you know, figured everything out a little bit. And yeah, we started at the beginning of this year and started with the Maserati, and a couple weeks later, we also decided to put on the BMW, and that was just kind of our you know, it was her everyday commuter car, you know, the car we have the dogs in, you know, and we just put it on there. We allowed other people to, you know, use it for whatever they want, put their dogs in it. We put very little restrictions on it, just because it was kind of our, you know,
Right.
It's hard to say a BMW is a beater, but you know what I mean? It was just kind of our you know, everyday car. So we put it on there just to see if people wanted to use it, and it actually got quite a bit of.
It did. It had some good traction to it. I think, well, it was also a manual, and I think that had a good appeal to a lot of people in this area. I mean, we always had to confirm with people when they booked the car. You are aware that it's a manual, and everybody always knew, but that was kind of one of the draws to it too. So yeah, that did really well for us.
Yeah, you know, that's something I'm surprised. A lot of people ask me quite often about having manual cars on the platform, and the only manual ones I've had are my Polaris Slingshots. I've had 2 of them for quite a few years. I want to say close to 4 years, and people are like, how do you get people to rent this car? And I'm so surprised to see how many people actually know how to drive manual, and even like the younger generations. So it's kind of cool to see that people are still out there learning how to drive manual. And I've actually never had any issues with like the clutch getting burnt out or anything like that. So, I mean, knock on wood, hopefully that doesn't happen, but so far it's been good. So I always tell people that if you are thinking like you have a love for manual cars, it's not a bad idea to get that, because I think that there is such a specific audience for that, where people are looking for that because they miss driving manual cars.
Definitely. I think one thing, I mean, when we got the Corvette, that was kind of one of the things. I mean, we both, there was a couple of things where we wanted to decide what would be the better route, whether it be a manual or an automatic, whether it be a Stingray or a Z06, you know what I mean? So these are things that we kind of had to compare and contrast. What is the benefit? What could potentially hurt us? And so we decided to go with the automatic for the Corvette, because, you know, we're giving the car to strangers. You know, there is that little bit of worry, but thinking back about how well it seemed that people took care of our BMW, how many times people ask us if our Corvette is a manual, you know, and even when we drop it off after they've rented or they've booked this trip for an automatic Corvette, even when we drop it off, they're like, oh, it's not a manual, you know, and it's like, yeah, sorry, but, you know, and I kind of explain to them, you know, it's just kind of, it's a risky thing, but, you know, if it was my car, you know, like our car that was our baby and not on a platform for strangers, we for sure would be, you know, a Z06 manual all day.
Yeah, that's so funny. It's so funny because till this day, I get the same comments that you're talking about on the Corvette specifically. Like, oh man, I wish it was manual. Like, it was really fun, but I wish it was manual. But I think either way, you definitely can't go wrong by having an automatic, because that just appeals to everybody.
Exactly.
Right.
You have the paddle shifters and everything anyways. They're fine.
Exactly, yeah. And if you do go with the manual, I think, at least from what I've seen, I think you can't go wrong with that either. There really seems to be an audience just for that. And definitely, in a way, I think it almost filters out certain type of people. And I've always had a good experience. So I don't know, it's worked out well. I was really surprised to see that.
Yeah, for sure.
So what kind of got you guys even thinking about Turo? How'd you guys hear about it? I think it kind of sounded like you said that maybe you rented on the platform first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So August 2019, so a little over a year ago, he actually rented what was my dream car, the Tesla Model X, as a surprise for me. And we took it and we went up to Canada and we went to Niagara Falls, and then we drove it back. We had it for maybe 5 days or so and just had such a great experience with the car. Since it was a surprise, I didn't really deal with the host at all. But afterwards, he was talking about the host and how it was just so easy to communicate, and especially since we were getting the car for an extended period of time and kind of going, out of the country, just so easy to work with. So that was what just kind of started and piqued our interest about Turo. And then from then on, we kind of started looking at the platform. We were looking at the calculator, and I don't know what got us interested specifically in the Maserati, but once we started looking at them and test driving them, we were like, it's a really nice car. Really, I would love to own this car. And it was just kind of like two puzzle pieces that seemed to fit together. And so we found the one that we wanted and just kind of pulled the trigger on it because the numbers made sense and it seemed like the right experience for us.
That's so cool. I love hearing that because it's still, I feel like when I talk to people, it's still such a new thing. And sometimes people have such a hard time wrapping their head around like, wait, what? You have nice cars and you just give them to people? I'm like, well, yeah, it is that, but it's not quite that.
Yeah.
There's a system and a method to it, and you're okay, you're protected. So that's really cool that you guys kind of took that jump into it. I love to hear that.
Yeah, it's shout out to the good hosts, honestly. Shane was the host in Safford, Virginia. He was amazing. And It was crazy because, you know, when I'm booking this car with him and I'm, you know, trying to figure out how I can do unlimited miles and, you know, work through all these things that I was like, I don't know if this is gonna be the best route because, you know, obviously rental car companies, they have unlimited miles and stuff like that. But then I'm torn because this is her dream car. So it's like, you know, you have, you know, this weighing system where you're like, what's going to be the best option? And then you deal with an amazing person that's just willing to work with you and negotiate and everything. And even to the point to where he was like, you know, I have a booking right after you. I don't know if I can have you have it that long and stuff like that. We came to the agreement. I don't remember how it came about, but we came to the agreement where I actually washed the car for him for his next renter, and he just trusted that I was going to take care of it, you know. And it's a risky thing. And being a host now, it's like I don't know if I would ever do something like that. But you know, it worked out for the best, and he made a host out of that situation, you know. So it just goes to show you what can happen out of the amazing interactions you have with the people on Turo, honestly.
That's so cool. So obviously I see both of you guys sitting together, which I love to see that because you don't really come across that too often. So I'm making the assumption you guys do this together.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yep. And when we started, it was one of those things where, I mean, before the pandemic and everything, we both had full-time jobs and are working tons of hours. And, you know, I'm in the event industry. She's in hospitality too. So, you know, crazy hours, random hours, not a set schedule at all. So there were plenty of times where, you know, it would just be me going to pick and drop off the car, just be her going to pick up and drop off the car. So, you know, funny enough, you know, I was at the convention center and our location was the parking lot next to the convention center, but I wouldn't even be touching the car. It'd be all her, and she'd drive all the way out there to my job, deal with the whole situation. And then, you know, it was just you know, a good setup we had.
I think one thing that worked out well for us was that we both worked at kind of destination spots, so we were able to make the pickup and drop-offs where our jobs were. Mm-hmm. So if he was really busy with an event and he wasn't able to step out of the building and do a check-in and a check-out and meet a guest, you know, I would drive out there and I would do it. But yeah, it's funny to look back on. I remember he would be texting me, be like, hey, I'm really busy at work. Did you see that message from a guest? Like, can you respond, please? Can you go check this in? It's going to be in a couple hours. Let's get the cars clean. So it was definitely like a joint effort working into everything.
That's really cool. And I'm sure it's such a good relationship exercise for you guys to kind of like navigate the responsibilities of it all.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. So you guys said that you guys started at the beginning of 2020, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So obviously it's been such a crazy anomaly of a year, unlike anything I've seen in all the years that I've done this. And it's definitely has had its peaks and valleys. So as a new host coming on to the platform this year, we've experienced obviously the pandemic, and then there's been changes with insurance and things like that. So how's your guys' experience been so far, and how have you been kind of navigating your way, especially with everything that's been going on with the pandemic? How has it been in your area?
Well, I mean, you know, with everything closing down, it was expected. You know, all of the bookings that we had for March and most of April canceled, which was expected. I mean, our jobs closed down. So, you know, with everything being closed down, it gave us some time to think about what we wanted to do with Turo. You know, what were some ideas on how we can expand? Because we knew that it was going to be a limited time. You know, things are going to start opening back up. And, you know, especially with things being closed down for the time that they were, like, people are going to want to come back out. and there's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to come out and do things and be outdoors and, you know, gather together in small groups if they can. But so we just kind of took it as a time to, you know, take it safe and think about where the future is going to go. So,
I mean, you go into it with such uncertainty. And I mean, I remember thinking about it as it was happening, and, you know, you start hearing about all this stuff and it's like, okay, it's getting more and more real, more and more real. And every time it's like, okay, well, we have all of these bookings lined up for April and May. And then you start seeing, oh, canceled. And I'm like, oh man. I was like, and this is when Turo first started, like, you know, trying to accommodate for both parties, you know. And I was like, I remember thinking specifically, like, oh, come on, just wait until the last day at least, so that I can get paid at least, you know what I mean? Because it's still, you know, it impacts for sure, you know. And to think about, you know, having your cars planned for 2 months worth of rentals and then completely getting wiped out of all of that revenue is rough, you know. So it's nice also to think about how it's been after the main portion of that pandemic, the big scare stuff, because it's like it's almost like we kind of made up for that, you know, that lull a little bit. I mean, obviously I don't think that much, but it you know, it's definitely been super nice since, I mean, granted, we were just starting out before everything started to close down, but, you know, the numbers that we have now in comparison to then are significantly better, you know? So we can only assume that these people that canceled must have either rebooked, or there's a lot more demand out there now in comparison to what there was. So.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, sorry. So, well, and I was just going to put into it as well, is when everything was closed down, there were some businesses that were essential that were still open. And we actually took that as an opportunity to look for cars. So that was when we sold the BMW and we actually bought the Genesis. And we got a great deal on it, because I remember talking to them. They're like, you know, we don't know if we're going to close down tomorrow or the next day. And so they were able to negotiate a lot on the price. So we kind of tried to leverage it the best we could to benefit us.
Yeah.
That's so smart. I can definitely tell just by talking to you guys really have the mindset. And we saw kind of very similar situation here in Southern California. It was like March and April were just kind of the brunt of it. It was bad. And same thing, you know, with having so many cars and having, like, I was booked all the way through the summer, you know, which is pretty typical to get those bookings in like February and March, and it was just cancel. You're just like, what is happening here? This is crazy. But kind of like you said, for us, August and September were crazy. I mean, it's almost some of the busiest times I've ever seen on the platform were August and September here. And October has been a little bit slow for us, but which is again typical. And then hopefully around the holidays picks up again. So really interesting to just kind of see how this year has like panned out. But I really think, just from looking at everything, looking at all the moves that Turo has made in the marketplace, that next year is going to be really, really good. I think this year was meant to be that, but obviously delayed because of everything that's happened. But I think next year, for anyone who is really able to hang in there, like, we're going to really reap the rewards of just being able to kind of like make it through and hang in there next year for sure. So I'm really excited to see that, or at least from my perspective. So for you guys, being that you guys are newer and you're starting with your first few cars, how do you guys kind of perceive the future of Turo?
You know, just being on here for not even a year, you know, just starting to go on to a year soon here. It feels like we've been doing it for a while. You know, we've had our crazy situations. We've had our amazing renters and everything. It feels every time that we have two cars booked, and I say this all the time, every time we have both cars booked, or there's a little like overlapping or a whole lot of commotion in one day with the cars, I'm like, okay, well, time to get another car. We have to throw another one in the mix, you know what I mean? Just so that I don't know, whenever they're both gone, it's like, okay, well, we need another car to be gone too then at that point, you know what I mean? If it's obviously doing well. I think you're absolutely right. I think next year is going to be phenomenal. To think about how this platform has just grown from when I've heard about it to what I see it as now. I mean, we don't really watch much TV, but I mean, anytime I'm passing by a TV, obviously you see commercials here and there or whatever. I've never seen a Turo commercial on TV. You know, I don't see Turo billboards really anywhere. I don't, you know what I mean? So the marketing that they do is very specific. And I think that the way they're targeting their audience is selective. And I think that it's going to be, I think it's just going to continue to amplify as people have great experiences on there. And it's probably a couple thousand, couple hundred, couple million, who knows how many people are new under figuring out who Turo is each day, and we constantly have first time renters.
Yeah, like 90% of our guests are first time renters.
Yeah. And it's obviously still such a fresh idea, and to see the business that we're getting now on such a fresh new, not product, but platform, it's I think you're absolutely right. It's going to be huge.
That's so cool. I love to hear that. I love it because I think out there's a lot of hosts that have been on the platform for a long time, and I don't know if it's their strategies or whatever it might be, whatever faults they have in the way that they run their stuff. There's a lot of negativity out there. I get these messages all day long. But I love to hear, because you guys have a very similar perspective in the way that I do, and I think a lot of the hosts that are in our community. And I think it is, if you kind of follow the system that was built, you're definitely going to have a successful journey through Turo. And there is so much demand. And like you guys said, I feel like we've barely just scratched the surface with the amount of people that even know about this platform. And I've been on it for almost 6 years, and I still think that hardly anyone knows about this. Even just people within my circle, I talk to them, and a lot of them don't know about it. And like you said, I think you're so right. The way that Turo has the ability to acquire renters, I think they've really proven that they have that ability for customer acquisition. And if they continue to just expand on that, I think it's going to be, like you said, you're going to have to keep adding cars. And that's literally how I grew my fleet. I was like, I'd be booked up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I should add another car if I'm fully booked up already. So I totally get that. That's how you end up having 10, 12, 15 cars. Literally one day you wake up and you're like, oh my God, how do I have all of these cars?
Yeah. I mean, the Corvette was just bought in August because of that exact situation. I was like, this Maserati's always gone. I mean, we gotta really push for this now, It's awesome to see how things are expanding with just a little bit we've been on it. I mean, you look at something like Airbnb and you see, that's really a household term now. You know what I mean? Everybody knows it. Everybody talks about it. Yeah. And I think it's just a matter of time before Turo is the exact same thing. I mean, there's not really any other competition out there for them. I mean, you have a couple of little things that are in the process of starting and kind of doing their own thing. You have your car makers that kind of have their little niche pockets of the nation of how they're, renting out their overstock or whatever they're doing. But as for just peer-to-peer, nobody holds nobody holds a light to them. It's Turo all the way.
Yeah, I agree. So do you guys have any advice for anyone that might be in your same position, who's just sort of newer on the platform, or maybe somebody who's just getting started or thinking about getting started?
Definitely. So the last thing you said something about, there's a lot of negativity out there, and we obviously try and stay away from it. We try and, just keep that positive mindset, no matter what happens. The negativity always seems to come around dealing with claims, though. That's when I really start to feel it, and I'm like, I don't know if it's the claims process needs to have its kinks worked out. So for new hosts that are experiencing claims and dealing with stuff like that, I'd say don't worry to a certain extent. Typically the claims will get handled and processed, flawlessly. You'll definitely have your tough battles and trying to make sure that you're getting paid out for certain things, but as long as you provide the documents and have everything set up and kind of know what you're looking for, everybody always has agreements before they sign up for something. You got to check all the boxes, you got to read all the verbiage. You really want to read the verbiage on Turo. And I to be honest, I kind of neglected it at first until I got burned, and then it was, now I'm reading the whole thing, and you go ahead, and then when you read it, you're like, okay, well, this is actually, it's nice to know, because it's, sure, I didn't do this exactly how they did it. I did it my own way, and now I don't get paid out for that. But now I think about it, I think of things in a different sense, and I just do it their way, and it's just as easier, as convenient as my own way. I just didn't think of it in that sense, you know? But yeah, claims and the support team, that's the only area we've experienced negativity, you know? But other than that, I think that it's a super awesome experience. I mean, you're creating experiences for guests, but it's also an experience as a host too. And I think that that's one really fun, exciting portion of it that I mean, it really makes our time being on the platform that much more enjoyable.
Yeah, definitely. And you're so right about that. There is a lot of nuances that go into the claims process. And I think sort of where Turo lacks, where they can actually do a better job to just make everyone's lives easier, is when there is a new host on the platform. I think they really need to have like a little educational piece on, hey, this is how you dot your I's and cross your T's in the event of a claim. So I think that's sort of that like missing element. And I, just like you, I've been burned myself, and that's how I learned my way and figured out, okay, this is the system and I need to make sure I'm following like this. And once I figured that out, then I really never ever had issues after that. But for sure, like if Turo was asked me for feedback, I would say that, you know, you guys really need like a very transparent educational piece for new hosts coming onto the platform on how to handle things like in a very specific manner, because their system is very specific. And if you don't follow any single element, you know, you could really expose yourself to a lot of risk. And I think a lot of people learn that the hard way, and it leaves a bad taste in their mouth. So I think that would definitely kind of the advice that you gave is that, you know, if you follow the system and just hang in there, you'll figure it out, you'll be okay. But I think they can definitely do a better job on educating their people, their community.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
So before I let you guys go, I know in one of the comments on Facebook, you had messaged that, you know, if there are hosts in your guys' area, you guys had some ideas on how to grow the business. So tell people where they can find you guys, and, you know, if anyone's in your area, hopefully they'll reach out to you guys and something that you guys can partner up on.
Yeah, so we're in the process of creating a website. You know, it's made, it's not active. So we'll have that later on, but at the moment you know, it's just under my name, Asher. Anywhere in the DMV area, you know, Alexandria, Maryland, you know, DC, we'll deliver to anything. So definitely reach out. We have the 2 cars. Hopefully we'll have that 3rd one that we have now on the platform by the end of the year. We're also looking at a couple other ones. We have our mind on a couple other cars that we'll put on there, hopefully by the end of the year as well. If not, within the first couple of months of the new year. I don't want to go into too much of the ideas that I have for the platform or what we could definitely link up about, but feel free, shoot me a message on Facebook if you're a part of the group. Reach out to me on the platform. However, I don't think we haven't activated any other platforms or social media for it yet. I think we will eventually once we get enough cars, and just kind of make it more of a global thing, but, you know, kind of touching all the aspects of the promotion for ourselves. But yeah, we have a couple ideas that if you're in the area and you want to try and figure out some type of way to expand or just improve how we're dealing with things out here, and how we can all help each other and just benefit from just being in the same area, definitely reach out.
Awesome. And then I'll have you guys send me any contact information that you guys might want to put out there for anyone that might want to get in touch, and we'll put that in the description down below. Thank you guys so much. Do you have any questions for me before I let you guys go?
Yeah, I think we had some questions.
So we recently, we're dealing with a claim right now, actually, with our Maserati. And it's been in the shop for about a week now, with just kind of waiting on Turo to figure out what they need to figure out so that we can go forward with the repairs and just get our car back listed. So we were just wondering, because we've been doing so much back and forth with Turo support over the last week, if you've ever encountered an experience like this where you just kind of have to bite the bullet and just pay for the repair to get the car listed again.
Yes, definitely. And I've noticed a major inconsistency in their claims process. Sometimes, even though the damage is severe, things move really fast and you get your payout and car's still in the shop and it's being worked on and you get the money before you have to pay the shop. And other times where the damage doesn't maybe necessarily seem that bad, or it could be bad, but for whatever reason, there's such a lag in the resolution of the claim, and you don't know why it's taking them so long. And for me, all I do is I consistently follow up over and over, like, hello, hello, hello. Any movement? Where are we at? What's the holdup? Is there anything else I can provide you guys? Like, is there an issue somewhere? Like, just let me know, And there have been times where the repair only takes maybe 3 or 4 days, but my claim is taking maybe 2 or 3 weeks to resolve itself. But as soon as I know that, like, my pictures are good, there's no issue in terms of coverage, which you kind of can figure that out just by your communication with your claims agent, then sometimes I'll just bite the bullet. I'll just pay for the claim as long as I know that everything is good in terms of my documentation, just to get the car out and get it rented out. But I would just caution that you just kind of want to assess the situation, just make sure that you're in the clear, that they don't have any issues with what you're claiming for. So that would be my only advice.
Yeah. Another one. Have you, I watched tons of your videos, obviously, but I haven't seen one where you're dealing with a smoking claim or a smoking situation, and they've cleaned up everything minus the smell. But I know you have the ozone, and we don't have one of those yet, so it's not as easy for us to try and put it on the next rental or whatever.
Right.
But how do you go about fighting that kind of claim where you can't really prove anything? You just got to take the $50 that they'll allow?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's pretty much you're shit out of luck. There's nothing you can do. There's no photo documentation. And I've had these cases where, like, the people are smart. They know that they smoke, so they go and get it washed and they clean and they leave air fresheners. But as soon as you pull it out, it's like, oh my God, it's bad. Yeah.
This guy's like, I put an air freshener in here for you. I'm just going to leave it just for you. Okay. And I was like, thanks, but that's not helping me because I know you're doing this for the wrong reasons.
Right. Yeah. So in that case, the only thing you can do is, get that 50, try to go for that, or try to go directly with the renter, which, usually people are not so willing to pay that.
Oh no, that's when you get ghosted. And that's
exactly. Yeah. But yeah, sometimes you just have to take the hit. Luckily, I have found in all the years of doing this is that usually people are not that smart. It's very rare where you'll find somebody who is smart enough to, like, clean the car and not leave any evidence and just leave the smell. But typically, I don't really experience that. But yeah, when it happens, there's just nothing you can do about it. I think that's what I was saying in one of my videos. Like, I wish there was like a smell test or something.
Yeah, seriously.
I would really, really, really recommend that ozone machine.
Yeah.
It's a total game changer. It takes, like, anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes. You leave it on in the car and you're ready to go. But in the meantime, the other thing that I've used prior to my machine was, they're like these little ozone bombs. Maybe you guys already use them. But you can get them from anywhere, like Target, Walmart. They're at all your local auto stores. And it's basically like a little can that you just, it's like a grenade. You, like, pull the thing out and it sprays your whole car and you just leave it there with the air running. So it's kind of like a mini version of the ozone machine.
Gotcha. Well, thankfully enough, we haven't had too many of the smoking claims or smoking reimbursements, but sorry, we have two big dogs that are playing right in our room. So we haven't had too many of those claims, but we've been lucky enough to where I have, like, odor eliminator spray, and I spray it, and then thankfully it's like either a day or two before the next renter on those situations, but yeah, it's it happens.
And here in California, I've noticed that ever since, I don't know how it is over there, but ever since weed's been legalized, it's like, it's a thing here. When people travel here, it's like one of their to-do list items is like, let's go smoke weed, let's go get high in this car.
Yeah, of course.
Because it's legal, but it just comes with the territory.
Yeah, of course. Another thing, you had asked about percentages that people do for the insurance packages, and so I just wanted to give you kind of what we've done and our thought behind it. So we've been on the 60% since we started. It has its pros and its cons. We're getting a huge chunk taken out, but we have 2 luxury cars on there that come back with curb rash often.
All the time.
And I mean, that's where it's at right now. It has curb rash. So, we, with the Maserati, it's machine finished rims. So it's not as easy to repair machine finished rims as it would be, something different. But, we found that quite a few of the claims they've been able to reimburse for the actual replacement of the tire, the rim, which is awesome. But then we've also had some pushback for it too, which it is what it is. But as long as something is able to get taken care of, I mean, I think that with something like machine finished rims, they can get repaired kind of all right.
Right.
It'll look all right for the picture, so that it looks like it's going out on a fresh set of rims. But every couple of times you just got to have it replaced by them. Other than that, I mean, it's definitely rough having them take out 40% of your earnings, and then you look at it and you're like, okay, well, I mean, all the stuff that we paid, or all the stuff that they paid for over the past month, if we would have made that in profit, we would have been ahead if we would have paid out of pocket for that stuff.
Right.
So, I mean, it's still something that we're kind of figuring out as we go and debating on what might be the best option. Lately, I've really been thinking about upping it at least to the 70, and just see if that would be different. But
so personally for me, I've tried it all at this point, and 70 for me is sort of that sweet spot where that deductible is like not a huge issue. It's pretty low. I mean, it's better not to have one, but what can you do? So 250 is not too bad, especially when the repairs are much larger. And same thing, with the 60, I feel like it is just such a big chunk that you're giving up. And then what I do at the end of every month is I kind of calculate, okay, what did I take in at the 70%? And had I have been paying the 60, what would that difference have been versus any claims and payouts that I've had? And I usually have found kind of what you're finding is that if you take the extra percentage, especially when it's busy, you tend to make more money that would more than cover anything that, you would have to pay for. So kind of same thing like you. One of the things that I did when the pandemic and everything was happening, I think this is before the insurance packages changed. So I forget what the old percentages were, but because it was so slow, what I did was I actually upped my insurance to what the 60% is now. So where there is no deductibles and stuff, because business was already so slow, I already wasn't making any money. So I didn't want to take on any additional financial risk if anything was to happen by having a deductible. And that's sort of been the strategy that I've always gone with, is that when it's really, really slow and it doesn't make sense to have that deductible for whatever reason, like when the pandemic happened, then I'll change it to the 60. But once we kind of got back into the groove of regular business, then I switched it back to 70 because I was making more money on the percentage than what I would have had to pay. So I would say as you guys kind of move forward and maybe as you start adding cars, just always kind of look at the numbers and see what makes the most sense for you.
Oh, definitely.
Awesome.
I think that's pretty much all the questions I had, or any of the talking points I had.
Cool. Well, I'm so glad we had a chance to do this. I think it's super informative, and I think it's cool, when other people share their experiences, because everyone just has such a different story and everyone's lives are different. And to be able to participate in a marketplace like Turo, it's unique. It's different. It's really cool. So thank you guys so much for coming on and doing this. And, I hope this brings you guys some more traffic to your listing and helps you guys grow. But you guys know where to find me. So I look forward to getting to know you guys even more. And, I'm around whenever, if you guys ever have any questions or need help with anything.
Yeah, likewise. And thanks for having us.
Yeah,
awesome.
Thank you so much for the time, Saimah. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. It was so nice to meet you, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.